Welcome to Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock alongside John Ramdeen. UFC 201 is coming up on Saturday night in Atlanta, and it is one fight lighter because Justin Scoggins was not going to be getting any lighter. He had weight-cutting issues and wasn't even making it to the weigh-ins, and therefore the fight is off. Ian McCall left without an opponent. He still made weight, and now they've moved the Ryan Benoit-Freddie Serrano fight up to the main card. But truly an awful experience, especially Ian McCall here, who was on weight, ready to fight. We had talked earlier this week about the long hiatus he's had, over a year and a half at this point, and very, very difficult to deal with, just days out from a fight.
Yeah, what I'm curious to know is if Ian McCall's team made a bid to face Wilson Reis. We know that Wilson Reis was initially training to face the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, and Demetrious Johnson. Demetrious Johnson forced to pull out of his fight. And it would have seemed that it would have made sense for Ian McCall, who was getting prepared for this young, mobile Scoggins, to try to request this fight, a bigger fight with Wilson Reis. And now, again, I don't know if Wilson Reis...
Is that really a logical conclusion, though?
No,
I mean,
you're right.
Wilson Reis on 2 days' notice, and conversely, Ian McCall on 2 days' notice if you're Wilson Reis. Not to mention Hector Sandoval, who's in short notice. Yep. You throw him to the curb. I think these days of just mixing and matching fights with 2 days to go, I'm not a big fan of it to begin with. I think this is on Justin Scoggins.
I totally hear you. But you have to remember, Ian McCall's been out for a long, long time. Let's just say he gets another fight. So they find a late replacement. He gets a win. He's still a couple of steps away from a UFC championship fight. You come in there, you are preparing to face a younger Justin Scoggins, kind of the future of mixed martial arts. Wilson Reis, kind of that old guard, that old school style, and still he's also no spring chicken. It would be more beneficial for him if Ian McCall wants to get a crack at the 125-pound championship. You go in, you look good against Wilson Reis, and you're next in line. But it also makes sense to not take a fight, get your show money, your win money, and then you're available to fight next month. So it kind of worked out for Ian McCall, but you certainly feel bad for him. Justin Scoggins tweeted out, bantamweight, here I come. So
do you like him moving up to 135? Because that's a big jump for him. He's somebody that obviously a very big flyweight, but he's looked very good at 125 pounds, and you're going to be in there with a lot bigger guys. John Lineker, another former flyweight.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And again, you know my philosophy. I would love if these guys
You'd
just
be happy if you fought at heavyweight.
No, not if you fought at heavyweight, but take the best fights, the most intriguing fights, the biggest fights, whether it's at 125 pounds or 135 pounds. Paul Shaughnessy and I were talking about some of the cool matchups. 135 pounds Scoggins versus Thomas Almeida, or Scoggins versus Cody Garbrandt. Those are some cool matchups, and you could see how those would intrigue mixed martial arts fans. Right now, 125 pounds is interesting, but you quickly run out of challengers very, very quickly.
And we'll see how quickly Ian McCall is booked. I mean, he was ready to go here, and you've just gone through a whole camp. Sometimes we don't always think of that fact of the wear and tear on your body after a 6 to 8 week training camp to just book him for another fight in 4 weeks. Yeah. Your body has peaked for July the 30th, and now you've got to essentially press the pause button on your training, your preparation, but you want to have that quick turnaround. You're ready to go.
But at least he knows that he's back in the game. He made the weight cut.
Yep.
He's ready to go mentally. He's in the right spot, and he gets a paycheck out of it. So it's like, okay, we did it once. We're back. This routine's under our belt. Let's do it again. Let's take a fight as quickly as possible.
Let's shift on over. World Series of Fighting has a card on Saturday night from Everett, Washington. If you're in Canada, it will be airing at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to feature a pair of title fights, both rematches, as we are going to see Moraes defending his championship against Canadian Josh Hill. These two had a great fight back in February of last year, and that was one that went the distance. Since that time, Josh Hill has put together a number of wins to get this rematch opportunity. Plus, we're going to see Lance Palmer looking to win his featherweight title back from the current champion, Alexandre Almeida. I think a good, interesting set of title fights here, not to mention a brother versus brother bout.
This is just fantastic. If you don't want to shell out money for the UFC pay-per-view, there's tons of reasons to tune into World Series of Fighting. Josh Hill from House of Champions and Parabellum was down training with Team Alpha Male to get prepped for this fight. He looks like he is in tip-top form. You can see a picture with him and Cody Garbrandt. He is looking shredded. And you pointed out their first fight. Marlon Moraes hasn't had a fight that close, I think, ever in his entire career. Josh Hill was able to push him there. And if they don't know the name Marlon Moraes, This is a training partner of Frankie Edgar and Edson Barboza, and now Eddie Alvarez. This guy is at the top of the food chain. 100% he'd be able to hang with any of the fighters in the UFC. Also, Lance Palmer, a wrestling coach at Team Alpha Male as well. So Josh Hill getting ready to peak on the same day as Palmer. And again, I think Almeida, a lot of people counted him out. We just thought it was a foregone conclusion that Lance Palmer was going to defend his title. It wasn't a very close fight, although Palmer was in it. Almeida clearly won that fight. And then you pointed out Fodor and Phoenix Jones, brother versus brother. I think this is interesting.
Yeah, not the first time we've seen a brother versus brother fight. MFC did it, happened at a card in New Mexico a number of years back. But is this some kind of hook, you think, for World Series of Fighting? I mean, this is a promotion that we've seen experiment with one-night tournaments. They're trying this. And, I mean, you've kind of boxed yourself in. There's good and bad, I think, to running on the same night as a big UFC card. And I wouldn't say this is a massive pay-per-view. There might be some casual interest to just flip the channel over and maybe you find some other mixed martial arts rather than running on a night where there isn't that awareness level. World Series of Fighting have to come up with creative ways. And Carlos and Ben Fodor, I guess so. But also, Hakeem Dawodu is going to be in action. This is another rematch against Murat Magomedov. They fought to a majority draw in their last outing. This guy is, if you've been watching him coming up in Canada, fighting out of Calgary, this is somebody that's very high on people's depth charts when it comes to the featherweight division and prospects in that
This
class.
is a guy that can turn your lights out with one punch, one kick. Spectacular athlete to watch, very, very terrifying. So it's a really, when you look at what World Series of Fighting are doing,
I think this is one of their better main cards in a while.
Andrews Nakahara also on the card. This is a guy that made his debut against the great Kazushi Sakuraba. So we all know that the UFC is top of the food chain, and then Bellator is number 2. And in the mix, you have one championship, you have Titan, you have Legacy, all trying to find that bronze medal spot. And I think World Series of Fighting is doing a good job.
All right, so you can spend the night on Fight Network. Tune into our UFC 201 preview show, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and then World Series of Fighting will be up Saturday night at 10:30 Eastern Time in Canada.